All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we are going to be looking at AWS Lambda security.
Oh, okay.
Lambda. It's really cool. You can run code without managing servers.
It is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
but even Magic can have its security vulnerabilities, right?
Right.
So we've got this pretty in-depth guide to AWS Lambda security, and I just want to get a grip on how easy are these things to hack.
Well, I think one of the most common things is really just configuration mistakes.
Oh, no.
It's kind of like leaving your door wide open with a big neon sign saying free stuff inside.
Oh,
So, one of the big things is like publicly exposed functions.
okay.
So, you build this amazing function, it does all these things, but if you accidentally leave it open, accessible through like an unsecured API gateway,
Oh.
anyone with a bit of know-how can start sending requests to it.
Oh, right.
And, including some malicious ones.
So it's kind of like leaving your keys in your car
Exactly.
and hoping no one takes it. But
Yeah.
that happens all the time.
It does.
So what about IAM?
Yeah, incorrect IAM permissions can also be a huge issue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like giving someone a master key to your entire house when all they really needed was access to like the guest room.
Oh, wow.
So it's really important to make sure that you're applying least privilege.
So even someone with legitimate access could really cause some problems.
Right. They might not even mean to do any harm, but with those excessive permissions,
Right.
even a simple mistake
Yeah.
could just have cascading consequences.
So least privilege.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But like configuring all those permissions, I mean, it can be so overwhelming.
It can be. Yeah.
So what else should we be thinking about when we are configuring things? Are there any other common traps?
Yeah. Misconfigured triggers.
Okay.
These are another favorite target for attackers.
Okay.
You think of it like setting a trap.
Okay.
So let's say you set up a system where every time someone uploads a file to your storage, a Lambda function kicks in to process it automatically.
Okay, yeah, that's efficient.
Super efficient, right?
Yeah.
But what if someone figures out a way to upload a malicious file?
Oh, like those Word docs or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like that function will just blindly spring into action, unaware of the danger.
That's scary. So we've got configuration mistakes. What about the code itself?
Yeah. So even the most carefully written code
Right.
can have weaknesses,
Right.
and attackers are really good at finding those.
You're going to find them.
It's kind of like building a fortress, but having a hidden trap door.
Oh, so you think it's secure, but...
Yeah. You think it's impenetrable, but there's a secret way in.
Okay, so what are some of those trapdoors that we need to be thinking about?
So one of the most common ones is OS command injection. Sounds complicated,
It does.
but it basically boils down to this. If your code executes system commands based on user input without proper validation,
Right.
an attacker could potentially inject their own commands.
Oh, okay.
So instead of just processing like an image file,
Right.
your function might end up executing something completely different and harmful.
Oh, so it's almost like they're whispering commands
Yeah.
to your code,
Exactly.
making it do things that it shouldn't.
Exactly. So it's kind of like you ask someone to fetch a file from a folder, but they sneakily add a command to like delete everything in that folder.
Oh, that's bad.
And then your code, just following instructions blindly, could end up wreaking havoc.
Okay, are there any other techniques like that that target the code itself?
Yeah, there's SQL injection and kind of like its cousin NoSQL injection.
Right.
These attack how your code interacts with databases.
Okay.
If you're not careful about how you build database queries, especially when using user input,
Yeah.
an attacker could potentially inject malicious code into those queries.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so imagine you have a website with a search bar.
Okay.
And under the hood, that search bar is sending queries to your database to find matching results.
Okay.
But let's say an attacker types something sneaky into that search bar.
Uh-oh.
Something that looks like a normal search term, but actually contains hidden SQL commands.
So instead of searching for products, they're doing what?
Yeah, they could be trying to like steal customer data or even like delete entire tables from the database.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like someone slipping in an extra line into a recipe and suddenly, instead of a delicious cake,
Right. Yeah.
you end up with a burnt mess.
Okay, so I'm seeing how important it is to really be careful with user input
Right.
and how our code is interacting with databases.
Yeah.
So is there anything else at the code level we should be aware of?
Yeah. And this one might surprise you, but vulnerabilities can actually exist in the runtime environment itself.
Really?
Yeah. So even if your code is flawless, the underlying system it runs on might have weaknesses.
Oh, wow. So even if I do everything right, there could still be like a back door.
Right. Think of it like building a house on a shaky foundation.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how strong the walls are.
Yeah.
If that foundation crumbles, the whole structure is at risk.
Okay, so I'm guessing there's more
There is more. Yeah.
than just this, right?
We haven't even talked about like outdated libraries and dependencies yet.
Right, so it's kind of like building a car with faulty brakes.
Exactly.
It might look fine on the outside.
Yeah.
But,
It's an accident waiting to
and
happen.
we've covered configuration mistakes. We've covered code level vulnerabilities. What's next?
Now we're getting into like sneaky data manipulation.
Data manipulation.
Yeah, it's like a magic trick
Okay.
where an attacker can make your code do things it wasn't supposed to do,
Right.
all by cleverly manipulating the data that it receives.
Okay. I'm all ears.
All right,
Tell me more.
let's get into it.
So we've spent part one uncovering all of these scary security vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm feeling like I need a digital security blanket.
I hear you.
But I'm guessing there's hope, right? We can actually protect ourselves from these threats.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay, good.
We've got plenty of strategies and tools that we can use
Great.
to really build some robust security
Okay.
into our Lambda functions.
Okay, so where do we even begin?
So the foundation of any good security strategy is the principle of least privilege.
Right, so not giving our functions more power than they absolutely need.
Exactly. It's like giving someone a key card
Okay.
that only unlocks the specific doors that they need access to,
Right.
instead of giving them a master key that opens every door in the building.
Makes sense. So how do we put that into practice?
So it starts with carefully defining those IAM roles
Right.
and policies for your Lambda functions.
Okay.
You really want to grant them the bare minimum permissions required to perform their specific tasks.
Okay, that makes sense. But isn't that a lot of work, especially if you have a bunch of functions?
It can be, but trust me, it's worth the effort.
Okay.
It's an investment in peace of mind.
Okay.
And there are tools and best practices out there
Right.
that can help you kind of streamline the process.
Okay.
And plus, like regularly reviewing
Okay.
and auditing your IAM permissions is crucial to make sure that they haven't become too permissive over time.
Least privilege. Check. What's next?
Input validation and sanitization.
Right, like those poisoned apples and those hidden commands.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's scary stuff.
Yeah. You got to treat all data that flows into your Lambda functions as potentially suspicious.
So we can't assume it's going to be formatted correctly or well-intentioned.
Right. Exactly. You need to verify it,
Right.
sanitize it,
Okay.
make sure it meets your expectations before you let your code even process it.
Okay, so how do we do that? Is there like a magical data cleaning theory we can summon?
I wish, but there are libraries and frameworks that can help,
Okay.
that provide built-in functions for validating data types, checking for allowed characters, escaping potentially harmful inputs.
So it's like having a security guard at every entrance, checking everything carefully.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
So we've got least privilege, input validation. What about those third-party libraries and dependencies, the ones that could be hiding vulnerabilities?
Right. Dependency management is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
You know, it's like making sure that all the ingredients in your recipe are fresh.
Right, you don't want to use something expired.
Exactly. You don't want to use moldy flour
Right.
to make a cake.
Okay, so how do we keep our dependencies from going bad?
You got to stay on top of updates and patches.
Right.
So software vulnerabilities, they're discovered all the time.
Right.
And developers are releasing updates to fix them.
Okay.
So think of those updates as security patches
Right.
for your code.
Got it. So it's not just about getting the new features.
Right.
It's about staying secure.
Exactly.
Are there any tools that can help us with this?
Absolutely. Amazon Inspector is a great service
Okay.
that can help you identify and address those security vulnerabilities
Okay.
in your Lambda functions and their dependencies.
So it's like having a security consultant on call.
Yeah,
That's really helpful.
it is.
So we've covered dependencies. Now let's talk about the code itself. How do we make sure our code is as secure as possible?
So this is where code reviews and scanning come into play.
Okay.
You know, it's like having a team of expert detectives
Okay.
scrutinizing every line of your code.
So it's not enough to just rely on our own eyes.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Having other developers review your code can be really, really helpful. They
Wow.
might spot things that you miss,
All right.
or they might have insights based on their own experiences.
Okay.
And then there are those automated scanning tools.
Yeah, what about those?
So static code analysis tools
Nice.
are like automated security guards,
Okay.
constantly patrolling your code base, looking for any suspicious activity.
Okay.
So they can identify things like insecure coding practices, the use of dangerous functions, even logic flaws
Okay.
that could lead to vulnerabilities.
It's impressive how many layers of protection we can add.
It is.
But I'm guessing there's more
There's more, yeah.
than just the code itself.
Yeah, you need to think about monitoring and logging.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like having a security camera system for your code.
I like it.
It allows you to see who's trying to do what and when.
So what tools can we use for this kind of surveillance?
So Amazon CloudWatch
Okay.
is your go-to
Okay.
for monitoring those Lambda function invocations,
Okay.
execution times, error rates.
So we can see how our functions are performing.
Exactly. You can see, are they healthy? Are they struggling?
Right.
Are they sending out any distress signals?
What about suspicious activity?
For that, you're going to want to enable AWS CloudTrail.
Okay.
So it logs those API calls and other AWS activities,
Great.
giving you a detailed audit trail.
So if someone's trying to do something shady, CloudTrail will capture the evidence.
Yeah.
And to take things even further, there's Amazon Guard Duty.
Yes. It's like having a team of security analysts
Okay.
constantly monitoring your logs, looking for any signs of malicious activity.
Okay, this is starting to feel like we're building Fort Knox around our code. So what else can we do?
So you also want to think about securing the environment itself.
Okay.
So it's like building a moat around your castle.
Okay, I like this fortress analogy.
It adds an extra layer of protection,
Yeah.
making it that much harder for attackers
Right.
to reach your valuable assets.
So how do we build our Lambda security moat?
One powerful tool is Amazon VPC,
Okay,
or Virtual Private Cloud.
right.
It allows you to isolate your Lambda functions from the public internet,
Okay.
creating a private network within AWS.
So it's like a secret underground bunker where our functions can operate safely.
Exactly.
Love it.
Away from all the chaos of the outside world.
Love it. And then there's AWS Wave.
Yes, web application firewall.
Right.
So it's like having a security checkpoint
Right.
at the entrance to your VPC,
Okay.
screening incoming traffic for known threats,
Okay.
blocking anything suspicious.
Wave sounds like a powerful bouncer.
It is.
What else can we do to fortify our environment?
So secrets management is another critical aspect. So you never, ever want to hard code sensitive information.
Right, like API keys.
API keys, database passwords
Mhm.
directly into your Lambda functions.
You're just asking for trouble.
Exactly. It's like leaving the combination to your safe written on a sticky note
Right.
attached to the door.
So what's the secure way to handle these secrets?
So AWS offers services like Secrets Manager
Okay.
and Systems Manager Parameter Store,
Right.
which are designed specifically for securely storing and managing sensitive information.
So it's like a bank vault
Exactly,
for
yeah.
our sensitive data.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Restrict access, monitor everything, and store things securely.
You got it.
So is there anything else we need to think about?
If you're using custom runtime environments
Okay.
or container images for your Lambda functions,
Okay.
there's one more layer of security to consider: container security.
Okay, container security. It sounds like a whole other rabbit hole.
It can be, but the core principles are the same. You need to make sure that those container images are securely configured, they don't contain any unnecessary software,
Right.
and that they're regularly scanned for vulnerabilities.
So it's like making sure the foundation of your house is strong and free from cracks.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
It's clear that securing AWS Lambda functions requires a multifaceted approach.
It does.
I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
What's the most important takeaway for our listeners?
So, securing your serverless applications is an ongoing journey, not a one-time destination.
So it's not enough to just implement these strategies once and then forget about them.
Exactly. The security landscape, it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
New threats are emerging all the time.
Yeah.
Attackers are always finding creative ways to exploit vulnerabilities.
So what's our best defense against this?
Never stop learning.
Okay,
Stay informed
Really?
about new threats and best practices.
makes sense.
The world of cybersecurity is dynamic,
Mm,
and complacency is the enemy.
I love that. So it's about being proactive,
Yeah.
vigilant, and always trying to improve our defenses.
You got it.
So we've covered a lot in this part. This is part 2 of our 3-part series
It is.
on AWS Lambda security.
Yeah.
So we're going to be back for part 3 to wrap things up and talk about some key takeaways.
Looking forward to it.
All right, welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our deep dive into AWS Lambda security.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah. So we've been through this forest of vulnerabilities
Right.
and come out hopefully armed to the teeth with ways to protect ourselves.
Yes.
But before we set everyone free to build their Lambda fortresses,
Okay.
I think it's good to take a minute and reflect on
Definitely.
what we've learned.
Yeah, I mean, we really started by going through those common hacking techniques.
Right, how they actually do it. Like,
Yeah.
how do people exploit these Lambda
Yeah,
functions?
and it's surprising.
Right, from those little configuration mistakes.
Yeah, things that
Hmm.
seem harmless.
Right, to those really complicated code vulnerabilities and data manipulation.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of underestimate the security risks.
Totally. Especially when you think about how much we're always thinking about go fast, go fast.
Right, exactly.
Especially in serverless, where we're always like, go, go, go.
Build, build, build.
Yeah, build, build, build. And then security is always kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, it can't be an afterthought, though.
Right.
It has to be baked in from the beginning.
Right, like right from the start.
Yeah.
But the good news is there are ways to protect ourselves.
Yes, there are.
We have that toolbox of strategies, and it starts with that least privilege idea
Right?
we talked about.
Only give enough access to do what needs to be done.
Right, so just enough. Don't give them the whole toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to give them the sledgehammer when all they need is the screwdriver.
Right, exactly. And input validation.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Yeah, treat all data like it's bad.
Yes, assume it's bad until proven otherwise.
Right, and then validate it.
Validate, sanitize.
Right, it's like having that bouncer at the door.
Exactly.
And dependency management, that's another one.
Keep those libraries up to date.
Right, it's like making sure the foundation of your house is solid.
Yeah, you don't want any cracks.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we talked about ways to protect the code itself.
Code reviews, static analysis.
Yeah, like all those monitoring and logging things we talked about.
Yes, it's like having that security team constantly monitoring everything.
Right, and environment configuration, building that moat around your functions.
Yeah, VPCs, WAFs, secrets management.
Yeah, it's all about layers, like an onion.
Yes, exactly.
But if there's one thing I really want people to take away from this,
Yeah,
is that security is not a one-time thing.
it's a journey.
It is a journey. The threat landscape is always changing.
Always changing.
So new vulnerabilities are discovered all the time.
All the time.
So what do we do?
Never stop learning.
That's it. It's like that continuous learning thing.
Yeah, you got to stay curious. You got to stay informed.
Yeah, and be on the lookout for new threats.
Exactly. Don't be complacent.
Don't get lazy with it.
Yeah.
It's not just a technical challenge either.
No, it's a mindset.
It really is.
Yeah.
So be proactive.
Proactive.
Be vigilant.
Vigilant.
And always be trying to improve
Yes.
those defenses. This has been a really great deep dive.
It has.
I think we covered a lot.
We covered a ton.
And hopefully everyone who listened feels like they can go out and build those secure and robust applications.
Yes. And that they can withstand anything
Yes,
that comes their way.
that's it for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep those Lambda functions locked down.
Lock down tight.